Hello, project managers, and welcome to this YouTube series on Microsoft Project Desktop. My name is Yasmin Brooks, and I'm going to be guiding you through this series of videos. The goal here is that we know how to get started with project with short videos. So this is going to be designed to be, first of all, hands-on. So be ready to open Project Desktop on your end and try to follow along with what I'm doing. And the next thing we're going to be doing here is actually building a project from scratch. So in this episode number 1, I'm going to start the project. So there's no starting file for this one. But then in the next videos of this series, you are going to be building on the starting file that we're going to use today. So whatever you're doing now, make sure you save your work because these are going to be the starting files for the next videos to come. So follow me and no more talking. Let's go ahead and get started in Microsoft Project. So here we are in Project Desktop, and I'm going to show you how you would get started with a project. The first thing you're going to do is actually create a list of all the tasks that you need to do in that project. So how does it work? It's very simple. You just have to come to this first column that says task name, and you're going to start writing the name of your tasks. I'm going to come here and just write some dummy tasks because I'm going to show you what the implication of simply doing this is. So I'm going to create task 1, task 2, and task 3. The next step you would do in a project once you have finalized creating your list of tasks is estimating the duration it's going to take for each task to complete. For you to estimate the duration, you are going to go to the next column, the duration column. And I'm going to come here and say that task 1 is going to take me 5 days, task 2 is going to take 2 days, and task 3 is going to take me 3 days. Okay? So this is what I have estimated so far. Notice a couple of things. Every single item that you add to Project Desktop is going to be placed in your Gantt chart as well. So we have 3 tasks, but right now, these tasks are happening at the same time. So basically, you have task 1, it's going to take 5 days for you to complete. But at the same time that you're working on task 1, you're also doing task 2, and task 3. This is what project is showing you right now. So the next step that you would do here is actually create task relationships. You're basically going to tell project which task should happen first before you can go to the next one. So the next logical step here is going to be to link those tasks together. So I'm going to go ahead and link task 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to multi-select them all, and I'm going to do that just by holding Shift and moving the arrows in my keyboard. So I'm going to select all 3, and I'm going to go to this icon under my task tab, and this icon is going to say link tasks. Okay, so if I hover over the icon, it's going to say link the selected tasks. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to link them. As soon as I click on this link tasks, those tasks are going to populate in your Gantt chart in a logical order. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and link those tasks. So now that I have linked the tasks, notice that the icon changed. They are not blurred. They don't have blurred edges anymore. They actually have a little rectangle representing the duration of each one of those tasks. And you can also see the project populated the start and finish date for each one. So the start date by default, it's of course something you can change, but it's going to be the day of today. So today I'm recording this video is January 5th, 2024. And that's automatically set as my start date for task 1. And then the finish day is going to depend on the duration. So this task is going to take 5 days to complete. Notice that the finish date is set to January 11 because project is not going to schedule any activity for the weekends. I'm going to clean my drawings here for a little bit just so I can show you this. Today is Friday. So project's basically telling me that this task is going to take 5 days to complete. So it's starting on Friday today. And then I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that's why this task is scheduled to be completed on January 11. Notice that it's not considering the weekends here as working days. Okay, we're going to discuss that later on as we progress with the class. But I'm going to keep doing things here. So this duration column is an estimation. This is a project plan, and you're just thinking out loud. You're just talking to subject matter experts and whoever's going to be working on the project, how long they think it's going to take for them to complete each task that would be assigned to them. So they're going to come back to you and say, yeah, well, I think it's going to take 3 days. I think it's going to take 4 days. And then you're going to give them additional information, and then they're going to come back to you and say, well, actually, now that I know a little bit more about the prerequisites for this project, I actually think that it's not going to take me only 5 days. It's going to take me 10 days right now. And this is the default behavior whenever you open a new project file in Microsoft Project. All new tasks, they are scheduled on manually scheduled mode, okay? This is also represented here in the task mode column with this little pin icon, okay? What is the problem with this? Project became famous because of the auto scheduling tool. So it's usually not something that we want to keep this on manually scheduled. I'm going to show you why just now. Now I have finalized my project plan. I have reviewed my list of tasks, and I figured out that it's not going to take 5 days. It's going to take me 10. So I'm going to make changes to my project. And as a project manager, you're going to make a ton of changes to your project before you actually quick start the project, before you actually go to the execution phase. So I'm going to come here and say that now it's going to take me 10 days. So let me clear this up, and I'm going to say 10. I'm going to hit enter. Notice what happened. When you have tasks scheduled on manually scheduled mode, all the other tasks that were already created, they are not going to be modified. So you have this warning here. You have this little red underscore here, underline, saying that there is something wrong. You have something weird going on in your Gantt chart as well. So the tasks, they are not following that logical order that we wanted to. Only when you finish one, then you go to the next. And you can see that you also have some like little dots kind of like pointing out that there's something wrong here, okay? So this is what happens when you have tasks set to manually schedule. How can you come and you can change this? I can select all my tasks, and the way you would select all tasks is simply by clicking on this little corner area right here. So I can select them all, and I'm going to move them all to auto schedule. So I can select this, and then in my task tab, I have an auto schedule button. So I can come here and change this all to auto schedule. So I automatically change that, but I still have the same problem. All new tasks are still created on manually scheduled mode. So if I come here and I create task 4 is still on manually scheduled mode, okay? So the other logical thing you would come and think of doing is actually coming here and changing that, which is totally something you can do. I can come and click new tasks on manually scheduled mode. If I click on this button, it's going to give me a few more options. New tasks are going to be created on auto schedule or manually scheduled. So I can just say that all new tasks are going to be on auto schedule. However, if I can give it a try, so I'm going to do task 5, and you can see that this is automatically on auto schedule now, okay? But if I open a blank new project, I'm going to still go back to the default behavior where all the tasks are in manually scheduled mode. So the first thing I'm going to do here before we get started, and I'm going to delete all these tasks here as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually change one of the settings. I want you to please go to your File tab, and on Options on the very bottom, you will find this Project Options here window, and I'm going to go to my Schedule tab. So under Schedule, you have scheduling options for this project, and right now you have new tasks created on auto schedule because we just changed it right here, okay? So that's why it's showing up like this. But if you come and you select scheduling options for this project, and if I come here to the drop-down menu, I will be able to see all new projects as well. So I can select all new projects. These other painting room plan is just because I have another plan open here. So it's going to show you all the projects that you have open. But I can select all new projects. So I'm going to go ahead and select all new projects. And you can see that for all my new projects, my new tasks are still created on manually scheduled mode. So please come here and change this to auto schedule. This way you don't have to worry about this later on, okay? So once you're done making those changes, just make sure you click OK, and that's going to solve your problem. All right, so that's it. I'm going to clear this all. And again, for me to multi-select all my tasks, I just have to come to the little corner area right here. I'm going to right-click on this area. I'm actually going to just click on the area, not right-click. And I'm going to hit delete. This is going to clean everything. So now we are actually going to plan our project. And you are going to plan a project for you to paint a new room. So you are going to redecorate your house and you want to figure out how long it's going to take for you to be able to paint an entire living room, for example. So another best practice in project is that whenever you have a project, you try to break that down into smaller parts. For example, what is your project? Paint the living room. But what activities do you need to accomplish in order to be able to paint the living room? So first thing, before you can paint the living room, you have to figure out what color you're going to paint the living room. And as I'm going to talk for myself here, but before I can make that decision, if you have ever been to Home Depot or to any other big box store, you'll see that there are a ton of different color options for paints. And I easily get overwhelmed and I cannot pick one. So what I normally do is I go to the internet and I try to find some inspiration pictures to figure out what colors I want to paint my room. So that's going to be my number one thing. Once I have found some inspiration pictures, then I kind of like narrow down, I want to paint the living room gray. So then I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to find all the different gray tones, because that's the second step. Whenever you figure out that you want it gray, there's 200 different tones of gray that you have to pick from. So then you're going to have to go and select the gray color, and then you are going to finally purchase the supplies for you to actually paint your room. So this is going to be my first few activities that we're going to have to do. And I'm going to call that my planning phase. So first thing I'm going to do is name my phase. So it's going to be my planning phase. And under my planning phase, what are the 3 activities that I'm going to be doing? So activity 1, search for inspiration images. Activity 2 is going to be choose the colors. Activity 3 is going to be purchase the supplies. So I have to do this before I can even get started. So purchase supplies. All right, right now, all these tasks, they have the same level of hierarchy here. But this is not the case, because planning is not a task itself. It's just the phase that I'm working on right now. This is going to pay out later on, because the longer your project gets, having phases is going to make it easy for you to organize and find what you need to do in the project, okay? And it also helps you focus as you start to complete the project and mark tasks as complete and create your status report and on. You'll be able to collapse phases that are complete so you can focus on the phases that you actually need to pay more attention to, okay? So how do we make the planning the actual name of the phase and the 3 activities that we have under this phase a lower level in the hierarchy? So there is another button right here in your task tab, right there. That's going to be the indent button. This is going to create different levels in your project. So I'm going to multi-select my rows 2 to 4. Okay, so 2. I'm going to hold shift and select rows 3 and 4 as well. And then I'm going to indent those tasks. And this is going to automatically make my planning not a task anymore, but rather a summary task. And we're going to talk about summary tasks later on as we progress with this series as well. So I'm going to go ahead and indent those tasks. And now planning is a summary task. Note what's going to happen when I start estimating my durations here. So I'm going to say that search for inspiration images is going to take me 3 days, because I'm a very indecisive woman and I need to see a ton of things before I can make the decision on which color I am going to pick. So I'm going to search for 3 days for images. I'm going to choose colors. It's going to be easier. I'm going to have to go to the store, so I have to make that decision right there. So I'm going to say it's going to take me half of a day and another half of a day to actually purchase the supplies. Okay, so 0.5. So right now, the summary task is actually compiling the sum of these durations, okay? So it's telling you that this entire planning phase is going to take you 3 days. So this is partially true. It is actually right now taking only 3 days because we have not created relationships yet. So we have all those tasks happening in parallel. So as I'm searching for inspiration images, I'm also choosing colors and I'm also purchasing supplies. We are going to talk in more depth about task relationships in later videos. So for this one, let's focus on creating our task list, creating our summary tasks, and also estimating the durations, okay? So I'm going to keep this as is for now. So then I'm going to go to my next phase. My next phase is going to be my prepping phase. So I'm going to give the phase a name, prepping, or you can type prepping phase, however you prefer. And then what activities do I have to do when I'm prepping to paint? So first, I'm going to have to remove all hanging objects from the walls. And then after that, I'm going to lay down my drop cloth and tape surfaces for protection. And let's say, just for the sake of this example, that we're going to use a spray paint just to make it a little bit more complex. So I'm going to have to put the equipment together. So I'm going to say prepare painting equipment. And I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. The prepping is the name of my phase. So I'm going to select all the tasks under the phase and indent them. So you can multi-select by holding shift and selecting as many rows as you want. You can also do shift control and move the arrow down in your keyboard. And this is going to go all the way down to the end of your list, okay? So same way that you would do in Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and indent those tasks as well, right here. And then I have my prepping phase. And notice something that it's actually kind of wrong here, and I didn't notice that before. My prep phase is a sub-phase of planning. So if I collapse my planning, you'll see that's going to collapse everything. And this is not what I want. So I'm actually going to fix that problem. I'm going to select my row 5, where I have the prepping phase. And I'm going to outdent this task, which is the one right to the left side of the indent one. And this is going to move this to the same level as my planning phase. So they're going to be equal types of phases here. So I'm going to move this back just by outdenting. So now planning is only the first 3 activities here. If I collapse, you will see that it's only going to collapse those 3. And my prepping phase is going to be the next one. So I'm going to keep adding my phases. My next phase is going to be my execution phase. And under execution, I'm going to apply primer, apply first coat of paint, apply second coat of paint, and that's it for my execution. And then I'm going to go to my final phase, which is going to be my cleaning phase. And in my cleaning phase, I'm going to clean up the room, clean up my equipment, and move objects back to the room. So this is what I have. And now I'm just going to organize my project into summary tasks. So we're going to keep doing what we have done so far. So I'm going to move, first of all, my execution phase, because that's a phase just like the others. I'm going to outdent that one first. So I'm not going to indent. I'm going to outdent the phase name, just so we don't get the same problem that we did before. So I'm going to outdent this one. And then I'm going to do the same thing for cleaning. I'm going to select my cleaning phase and then outdent the cleaning phase. So now we have all those phases separately. We don't have any sub phases here. You can have different levels. I can add some phases. I can add more than just 2 levels. Right now, we only have 2, but you can have 3, 4. You can have many different levels here, but I'm going to keep this simple. The next thing you're going to do is estimate the durations for your tests. What we have already done for my planning phase, we're going to keep doing that for all the others. So how long do you think it's going to take for you to remove all the hanging objects from the walls and all the furniture from that room? So I'm going to say half of a day. So 0.5 days. Lay down drop cloth. That's going to take me another half of a day. Tape surfaces. That's actually a very time-consuming activity. So I'm going to say 1 day for that. And then prep painting equipment. I'm going to say, let's see, just to have something rounded up here, I'm going to say another 1 day just so we don't have anything that's 1.5 days or something like that. And then from the execution, apply primer 0.5, apply first coat 0.5, and then apply second coat another 0.5. So I'm going to do 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5 days. And then my cleaning phase is going to be 0.5 to clean up the room, 0.5 to clean up the equipment, and move objects back to the room is going to be 1 day. So this is what we have so far. And the next thing we're going to do is create task relationships. But this is something I'm going to save for the next video in this series. Right now, I just want you to be able to create your task list and also create your summary tasks. Notice that the summary tasks, they're also only just to give you information about that specific phase. So we're going to talk in later videos after we create our task relationships on project summary tasks as well. So just to give you a little bit of a spoiler so you can get excited for the next videos to come. And I'll see you in the next videos of the series. To wrap up, I hope you liked this video. I hope this was a good introduction just for you to know how to get started. There is way more that we need to go before we can have our final project plan, but this is a good starting point. So, as always, I hope you like this video. I'll see you in the next ones.